Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on a topic that is super important for anyone following international relations.
Especially if you're prepping for the UPSC exams.
You got it. We're talking about the shift from international to global politics.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at some excerpts from a text that really unpacks
What global politics actually means.
exactly. And,
Why understanding this evolution is key.
yeah, not just for acing those exams,
Right.
but for anyone who wants to really get the world we live in.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's fascinating how the term global has changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about things happening worldwide, like...
Climate change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's also about understanding that politics at every level from...
Like at our communities.
Yeah, from local community decisions all the way to these big treaties.
Wow.
They're all kind of woven together
Okay.
in this complex web.
So we're kind of moving beyond that classic image of countries as these separate actors on the world stage.
Exactly. It's not just about states interacting like
billiard ball.
like billiard balls. Yeah, just bumping into each other.
Right.
The text really pushes back on this
Old model.
this old billiard ball model, and instead it's like a cobweb model.
Okay, a cobweb model.
Yeah, imagine a cobweb with each thread representing a relationship.
Okay,
Trade, communication, migration.
gotcha.
And so you pull on one thread, and it kind of sends these ripples throughout the whole thing.
Oh, I see the whole web.
The whole web, yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here, but
Yeah.
how does this new cobweb model actually play out,
In the real world.
in the real world?
One of the biggest changes the text points out
Yeah.
is new actors on the scene.
Okay.
It's not just states anymore. We're
Right.
talking transnational corporations.
Huge companies.
Huge companies like Google,
Yeah.
wielding influence through data and technology.
Wow.
We've got NGOs like Greenpeace
Okay.
mobilizing people on critical issues like the environment. And even groups like Al-Qaeda showing us how non-state actors can unfortunately use violence to get what they want.
That's a lot of new players in the game.
It is.
It makes you wonder, where do states fit in,
Yeah.
this new global landscape? Are they becoming irrelevant?
That's a great question, and one the text grapples with.
Okay.
While states are definitely sharing the stage,
Okay.
they are far from irrelevant.
Yeah.
Think of it like a boxing match.
Okay.
They may not be the undefeated champions they once were,
Right.
but states are still the heavyweights in the ring.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So they still pack a punch,
They do.
but the ring is a lot more crowded and chaotic.
Exactly. States still have this unique power,
Okay.
especially when it comes to military force.
Right.
That's something no corporation or NGO can really match.
Yeah, makes sense.
But their influence is definitely being challenged
That's right.
and reshaped by all this interconnectedness.
And speaking of interconnectedness, the text really emphasizes this idea of interdependence. But with everyone so reliant on each other,
Right.
does that automatically lead to more cooperation and peace?
Well, that's where it gets interesting.
Oh.
Interdependence isn't always some harmonious utopia.
Okay.
The text talks about asymmetrical interdependence,
Symmetrical interdependent.
where one party benefits more than the other.
From the relationship.
From the relationship, exactly. And this can lead to imbalances of power.
Oh, so it's not always a win-win.
Not always. No, it can lead to tension and even conflict.
Can you give us some examples of this asymmetrical interdependence, like in the real world?
Absolutely. Think about the trade relationship between the U.S. and China.
Okay.
Classic example.
Okay.
The U.S. relies on China for all these manufactured goods.
Right.
And China depends on the U.S. market for their exports.
Yeah.
But the balance isn't equal.
Right.
China has some advantages, especially in manufacturing capacity.
Okay.
And that can create tension and even lead to trade wars.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I'm sure our UPSC aspirants out there are already connecting this to other global issues.
Yeah.
Like Europe's dependence on Russia for energy.
Yeah, great example.
Really highlights how interdependence can also be a source of vulnerability
It's true.
and create all these complex geopolitical dynamics.
Exactly. And that's why understanding these nuances is so crucial,
Yeah.
especially for those of you preparing for the UPSC exams.
Really helps you go deeper
It does.
with a more critical lens.
Yeah.
So we've got these new actors shaking things up, this complex web of interdependence.
Right.
That's not always as positive as it seems.
Right.
And states still kind of vying for power in this new global arena.
It's a lot.
It feels like a lot to grasp.
It is.
Where does global governance fit into all of this?
Global governance is a big topic.
I bet.
It deserves its own deep dive.
Okay.
But to put it simply, it's about trying to bring some order and cooperation
Okay.
to these global challenges.
Oh, ones that cross borders.
Yeah, that go beyond borders. Think climate change regulating trade or global health crises.
So it's like trying to create some rules of the road
Yeah,
for this increasingly complex system.
exactly. And it's not just about institutions like the UN.
Okay.
Global governance also involves these informal networks of states and non-state actors working together.
Sometimes successfully, sometimes not.
Sometimes successfully, sometimes not. That's right.
To address these shared challenges.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
See, it sounds like global governance is still
A work in progress.
a work in progress for sure.
Definitely facing some obstacles.
Getting complexities.
Absolutely. There are a lot of questions about how effective it is, who it represents, and if it's really accountable.
Right.
But the very fact that we're seeing these attempts to deal with global problems collectively,
Yeah.
I think underscores this recognition that many of today's challenges can't be solved by individual countries acting alone.
Yeah, this has been incredibly insightful. It really has.
Good.
Gives me a lot to think about. It's fascinating how those traditional lines between domestic and international politics are really blurring
They really are.
in this new globalized world.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
The text really emphasizes how what happens within a state
Right.
can impact the whole world.
And vice versa.
Exactly. Think about it. Economic policies in one country
Okay.
can impact financial markets across the globe,
Wow.
or a pandemic, as we all know.
Yeah?
Demonstrates how interconnected we really are.
Yeah. No country can completely isolate itself
Nope.
from global events and trends.
Not anymore.
Yeah. And that brings us to a key point.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for us, the everyday people trying to make sense of this?
In this complex world,
Yeah, well, I think it means that staying informed about global politics.
it is more important than ever.
I completely agree. It's not just about skimming the headlines.
Right.
It's about understanding the underlying forces
Yeah.
that are shaping our world and learning to really analyze these complex dynamics.
Absolutely.
And for our UPSC aspirants,
Yes.
this deep dive provides a crucial framework for analyzing international relations in a way that goes beyond that traditional state-centric perspective.
Exactly. You got it.
Yeah, and for those of you prepping for those exams, think about how you could apply these concepts
Yeah.
to current events. How do these new actors, this complex web of interdependence and the evolving nature of global governance play out in the real world?
Excellent points. And remember,
Yeah.
this isn't just for those taking exams.
Right.
Understanding global politics makes all of us
More informed.
more informed and engaged citizens.
Yeah, this deep dive has definitely broadened my perspective. And I'm sure our listeners are feeling the same way.
Me too.
But before we wrap up, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
The text focuses on defining global politics.
Right.
And this transition from international politics.
Yeah.
But it didn't really get into the impacts of this shift.
Right.
What are some of the consequences
Yeah.
of this evolving global landscape, both positive and negative?
That's a fantastic question. It's like asking, so what does this all mean for the world?
Exactly.
Well, the implications are massive
Look.
and multifaceted on the positive side. This increased interconnectedness can really help collaboration on global issues like climate change or pandemics.
Yeah.
It can also lead to greater economic opportunity,
Right.
cultural exchange.
Right. I can see how shared challenges
Yeah,
can force countries to work together,
it's true.
potentially leading to solutions.
Absolutely.
And globalization has opened up markets
It has.
and made information more accessible.
For sure.
Yeah.
But there's a flip side.
Okay.
This interdependence can also make inequalities worse.
Okay.
Remember, asymmetrical interdependence?
You mean where one party benefits more?
Exactly.
That's
This can lead to exploitation,
Oh, wow.
power imbalances, and even conflict.
Okay.
Think about how globalization can benefit these big companies, while at the same time displacing local businesses and workers,
Especially in developing countries.
especially in developing countries. Yeah.
That makes sense. It's not just about understanding that we're all interconnected,
Right.
but also who benefits
Yeah.
and who loses
Exactly.
in this complex web of relationships.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
And that's where critical thinking is so important.
Okay.
We need to be able to really break down these global issues,
Yeah.
identify the power dynamics,
Okay.
and consider the ethical implications of different policies and actions.
This is pure gold for our UPSC aspirants.
It is.
Being able to analyze these complexities
Yeah.
and form their own informed opinions. It's
crucial.
It's crucial for those exams, but it's also incredibly valuable for anyone who wants to be
And engage.
an engaged and informed citizen in today's world.
I couldn't agree more. Understanding global politics isn't just about academic knowledge.
Right.
It's about empowering ourselves
Yeah.
to navigate this increasingly interconnected world.
And that's something we can all benefit from. Well said. And for our listeners, I leave you with this thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Can you think of examples of asymmetrical interdependence playing out in the world today? Maybe in the news,
Yeah.
in your own community, or even in your personal relationships.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Recognizing these power dynamics is the first step
Absolutely.
towards understanding and addressing these complexities of global politics.
That's an excellent question to ponder. And remember, everyone, the more we understand about global politics, the better equipped we are to shape a more just and sustainable world.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep questioning.
Keep engaging with these crucial issues.
Yeah.
And before we go, a quick reminder to hit that like button
Yes.
and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world of global politics.
We appreciate your support.
And be sure to share your thoughts and examples of asymmetrical interdependence in the comments below.
We'd love to hear your perspectives.
Until next time, keep exploring.
And keep diving deep. And it's not just about getting these big ideas, you know?
Right.
It's about connecting them to what's happening.
Yeah, and the real world.
In the real world and using that knowledge.
Right, especially for our UPSC aspirants.
Exactly.
Who need to show they really get global politics.
They've got to be nuanced.
Yeah, in those exams.
For sure.
So let's look closer at global governance.
Okay.
You said it's like creating rules for this complex system.
Yeah.
But with so many different players and interests,
Right.
how effective can global governance actually be?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Global governance is always changing.
Okay.
It's messy. It's a mix of
Successes and failures.
successes, failures, and challenges.
Okay.
Take the UN, for example.
Okay, UN.
Instrumental in promoting peace, development, human rights.
Yeah, but I've heard the criticisms
Oh, yeah.
about it being bureaucratic, slow,
Yeah.
and sometimes just not effective.
You're right. It's got this huge, ambitious mandate.
Yeah.
But it can get bogged down by politics in its own structure.
Yeah, and the UN is just one part of it all.
It's one piece, right?
There's also the
The
WTO.
World Trade Organization.
Yeah, which is supposed to regulate trade.
Yep. Promote free trade. But the WTO has also been criticized
Oh, really? For what?
for favoring developed countries and sometimes not dealing with issues like labor rights and the environment.
So it sounds like global governance is all about trying to balance these competing interests
It is.
and finding solutions that actually work
Yeah.
for all these different players.
For everyone.
And it's not always pretty.
It's messy. It's imperfect.
Yeah.
But it's necessary.
Okay, why is that?
Because the problems we're facing today,
The big ones?
climate change, pandemics, economic crises, terrorism, they don't stop at borders.
They don't care about borders.
We need to work
Require
together.
global cooperation,
We do, and that's where global governance comes in.
despite its flaws.
Despite its flaws, exactly.
Okay, I'm getting a better picture of how it works.
Good.
But for our UPSC folks,
Yeah.
who are often asked to analyze specific examples,
Right.
can you give us a real-world scenario?
Sure. Let's look at the Paris Agreement on climate change.
Okay, the Paris Agreement.
A landmark agreement trying to limit global warming.
Huge deal.
Huge deal. It brought almost 200 countries together
Wow.
to deal with this global challenge.
Okay,
But even with this agreement, there are still obstacles.
like what?
Some countries are lagging behind on their promises.
Oh, I see.
And there are debates about how to share the costs and responsibilities fairly.
Okay, so it's not just about signing an agreement.
No.
It's about what happens after.
It's about the implementation.
Yeah, and the follow-through.
Exactly. And it's not always easy.
That's a perfect example. It shows how global governance can make progress.
It can.
But it's a constant process
It is.
of negotiation and compromise.
A lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work.
And this example shows something else, too.
Okay, what's that?
Global governance isn't just about these formal agreements and institutions.
Okay.
It's also about those informal networks, partnerships, collaborations.
Okay.
Think about all the NGOs, scientists, businesses, activists working on climate change.
Yeah.
They're all pushing for change, holding governments accountable and coming up with solutions.
So it's like this multi-layered approach
It is.
with everyone working together, sometimes agreeing, sometimes disagreeing,
Yeah.
to try and steer global governance
You got it. That's a great way to put it.
in the right direction.
And it's this complexity, this back and forth,
Yeah.
that makes global politics so interesting and challenging to study.
I totally agree. It's like this giant puzzle.
It is.
Always changing new pieces, emerging old pieces, shifting around.
Constantly evolving.
But even though it's complex,
Yeah,
I think we all need to try to understand how it works.
I completely agree. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the decisions made at the global level
Yeah. By institutions or these networks,
affect all of us.
they impact our lives.
They do.
Okay, so we've talked about this shift.
From international to global.
Yeah, the new actors.
Yep.
The complexities of interdependence.
Right.
And the challenges of global governance.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
I want to bring it back to our listeners.
Okay, let's make it relevant.
Yeah, because I think the biggest takeaway is that global politics isn't just some abstract concept.
Right.
It affects all of us
It affects us in real ways.
in tangible ways.
Absolutely. It's about our jobs, our health, our security, the environment, the future for ourselves, and the next generation.
This brings us to another key concept,
Okay.
the blurring of those lines between domestic and international politics.
Yeah. Can you talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, unpack that for us.
Sure. In this interconnected world, it's getting harder to separate what happens inside a country from what happens outside.
Okay, I see.
The text has some good examples, like how economic policies in one country
Yeah.
can affect financial markets around the world,
Wow.
or how a virus outbreak in one place can become a global pandemic,
Yeah, impacting everyone.
impacting health and economies everywhere.
It really shows how connected we all are.
It does.
And how even local events can have these global consequences.
Exactly. And it also highlights the importance of understanding global politics,
Okay.
even if you're not directly involved, because
Yeah.
what happens on the world stage shapes our lives, whether we realize it or not.
So for our listeners who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway? What should they remember?
I think the most important thing is that the world isn't neatly divided anymore.
Okay,
It's not these separate self-contained boxes.
right?
It's a complex web of relationships where actions in one place can have ripple effects everywhere.
Like the butterfly effect.
Exactly.
A small change in one place can have these big, unpredictable consequences.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to stay informed,
Yeah,
to think critically about these issues, and to talk about how we can navigate this changing world.
and this is where things get really interesting, especially for our UPSC aspirants.
Yes.
Because it's not just about understanding these concepts.
Right.
It's about using this knowledge to analyze real-world situations,
Yeah.
case studies, connect the dots,
You got it.
and form your own opinions.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll be looking at in the next part of our deep dive.
Right.
We'll be digging into specific examples of how this shift to global politics is playing out in different parts of the world.
Okay, different regions.
The challenges, the opportunities,
Yeah,
and what it all means for the future of international relations.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Me too.
But for now, let's take a pause.
Okay.
Give our listeners a moment to process all of this.
Okay, we're back and ready to keep going with this global politics deep dive.
Let's do it.
Before the break, we were talking about how something happening in one part of the world
Right.
can have these ripple effects everywhere else.
Exactly.
And for our UPSC folks, understanding these connections and analyzing examples is key. Absolutely.
So let's get into it. Can you walk us through a real-world situation that shows this interconnectedness?
Sure. Let's take the conflict in Ukraine.
Okay. The war in Ukraine.
Yeah, at first it might seem like just a regional conflict,
Right.
but the impacts are being felt globally.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The conflict has had huge consequences.
It has.
We've seen energy markets go crazy,
Yeah.
global food supplies disrupted,
Right.
and everyone's talking about military alliances and defense spending again.
It's a big deal.
It really shows you how connected our world is.
Exactly. And it highlights how this shift from international to global politics plays out in a real conflict.
Okay, how so?
We see states like Russia using their power,
Right.
but we also see non-state actors playing a big role.
Okay, interesting. Like,
I mean, think about the flow of information and disinformation online.
okay, right, all over social media.
Exactly. Social media shaping public opinion.
Right.
And then you've got NGOs on the ground doing humanitarian work.
So it's like all these things we've been talking about.
Yeah.
States, non-state actors, interdependence, global governance,
It's all there.
all coming together in this one conflict.
You got it. And it also shows how a regional conflict can escalate and pull in other actors.
Right, creating those alliances and rivalries.
Exactly. Think about NATO, the European Union, the U.S. supporting Ukraine,
Okay.
and then countries like China trying to walk this diplomatic tightrope.
It's like this high-stakes geopolitical chess match.
It is
And for our UPSC aspirants, it's a perfect case study
a great example.
for analyzing how global politics works in the real world.
Absolutely.
You've got to think about the history, the economics, the military, the ideologies, international law and institutions.
It's complex. It's a lot.
But that's what makes it so interesting.
Okay, so we've looked at how this shift to global politics plays out in a conflict. But
Right.
what about everyday people? How does all of this affect us on a personal level?
Well, think about the things you use every day, the products you buy, the food, you eat, the clothes you wear.
Chances are they've been made, transported, and sold through these complex global supply chains,
Right.
connecting us to people and places all over the world.
I never really think about it like that.
It's easy to forget.
But yeah, my morning coffee or my smartphone are the end result of this global web
It's true.
of trade and production and consumption.
And it's not just stuff.
Okay.
Think about the information we consume, the entertainment we enjoy, the ideas we share.
Right.
The internet and social media have created this globalized information space
Okay.
where we're constantly connected to people and cultures from all over.
It's amazing how much our world has shrunk in a way,
It is.
thanks to technology and globalization.
It's incredible.
But it also brings up questions about the challenges and opportunities of this interconnected world.
Absolutely. And that's what makes studying global politics so important.
Okay.
It's not just about theories or history.
Right.
It's about dealing with the real world challenges and opportunities.
Who'd all face together.
Exactly, as a global community.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the first one is that the world is more interconnected than ever.
Okay.
What happens in one place can affect everyone.
Right. So we all have a stake in what's happening globally.
We do, whether we realize it or not.
We can't just sit back and watch anymore.
Right. We need to be informed and engaged citizens.
We need to understand what's shaping our world.
And work together to address the challenges.
Exactly. The second takeaway
Yeah.
is that global politics is complex
It is.
and always changing.
There are no easy answers.
Okay.
And the old ways of thinking about international relations just don't cut it anymore.
So we need new tools, new ways of understanding this interconnected world.
We do. It's about embracing the complexity, being willing to learn and adapt, and knowing that this is a process.
A process of discovery and dialogue.
Exactly. And lastly, I think it's important to remember that while global politics can seem overwhelming,
Yeah, it can be a lot.
it's also fascinating and full of possibilities.
Fine. Yeah, I like that. By understanding how the world works, we can actually make a difference in our communities and on the global stage.
That's a great point. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness,
Yeah.
embracing the complexity, and using our knowledge to create a more just sustainable and peaceful world.
Well said. And for our listeners, this is just the start of your journey into global politics.
There's so much more to explore and learn.
So keep asking questions,
Yeah.
keep challenging those assumptions,
And keep engaging with these issues.
and don't forget to hit that like button
Yes.
and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into global politics.
We'd love to have you join us.
Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, keep diving deep.